Hello and welcome to today's RMIT talk. I'm Mishs, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Vocational Education here at RMIT. Before we begin today's session, I would like to acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders, past, present and emerging. And while we conduct our work remotely, I want to pay my respects to the wider unceded lands of this nation. So over the past 18 months, you would have heard many people use the word unprecedented to describe what has been happening in our world. And it is absolutely true. Before the COVID-19 pandemic swept around the globe, we were all leading very different lives. But it is also true that with all the change and the disruption due to COVID-19 and new technologies, we have ultimately adapted and got used to doing things differently. We've worked from home where we can, and we've become more adept at using technology, at trying new things to pass the time, at being more inventive and creative, and hopefully become a little more resilient in the process. So what does all of this have to do with our discussion topic? Well, quite a lot, actually. Vocational education at RMIT University is hands-on and proud of it. Our qualifications and training meet tomorrow's demand today with key skills for the real world. Being adaptable, nimble and agile are not only core strengths for us, they are business as usual. They set us apart and give us a real advantage in the workplace and our graduates. We have a fantastic panel lined up for our discussion tonight, including leading IT and tech professionals, as well as representatives from consumer, retail, trade and enterprise. And they'll be sharing their stories and answers to your burning questions on getting ready for the future of work. So before we get into it, let's meet the members of our panel. And I might start with you, please, Andrew.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name's Andrew Atkin, and I'm the head of IT for Asia Pacific for Lindt Australia, the chocolate company. And I've been in the tech space now for just over 20 years, and here to help any budding IT professionals in their career and guide anyone in being able to take the IT journey. It's a fascinating industry to be in, and it's only getting more and more tech coming into our world. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Andrew. Over to you, Michelle.
Hey, my name is Michelle. I am a developer engagement PM for Microsoft. I am a TEDx speaker, tech girl superhero, and one of MCV's 30 most influential women in games. I'm super excited to be encouraging the next generation into careers in STEM.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. And Bella, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Bella Katz. I am the Group Marketing Manager for PAS Group, and I've been in marketing for over 20 years, mostly with consumer retail. I'm delighted to be able to answer any questions or help you. Obviously, consumer retail's had an absolute overhaul with COVID, and so the future of this industry is totally omni-channel and is going to look very different.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bella. And Jade.
Hey everyone, my name is Jade. I manage the technology careers at NAB. We're responsible for all of the talent that comes into our technology and enterprise operations. It's a really exciting space at the moment. We just hit the largest technology internship employer this year, which is really fantastic. And we're just super passionate about seeing the potential in people and being able to bring them into our culture and into our teams to really help them kickstart their careers. So look forward to chatting with you more.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to all of our panellists for their introductions. Just a few moments of housekeeping before we get into the panel proper is I wanted to let you all know as audience members that we have 15 to 20 minutes set aside at the end of our panel discussion to go over any questions that you might have. So you can submit your questions in the Q&A tool on the right-hand side at any time, and we will do our best to filter and sort those into themes and groups and to answer as many as we can. But if we do run out of time, please remember our live chat function is also currently open and can be joined at any time as well. So let's get back to our fantastic panel of industry guests. And the first question is one for all of you, and that is, how did you get to where you are now in your career? And part two, has it differed to what you first had in mind? So I might start in the same order as our introductions. Andrew, let's start with you.
Great, thank you very much for the question, Mish. Yes, I started in a completely different industry. I hated school and left at the end of year 10 and pursued a trade. I'm a boilermaker by trade, and gradually through over time got into management, and then pursued a diploma, and then an undergraduate degree in operations management. And I thought my passion was in operations and supply chain and logistics in my late 20s. So already by then I already had two different careers, both in trade and then supply chain. And then I came over to work for Lint, and that was to implement SAP. And then from there, one IT project after another, then became the head of IT, and then have now just completed my master's in IT and taken a completely different journey to where I originally started, both in the fact that I hated study and hated learning, to then being passionate about education and the importance of it, and then also finding a real passion in the IT space and being able to really deliver a lot more. So yeah, completely different industry and direction from when I left, and that's really over a 30-year period. So it's amazing how many crossroads that you come to and the different changes that you can make in your life.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. Michelle, what about you and your career path?
Same, absolutely the same. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was going to university. I didn't even know what course I wanted to choose at university, and I ended up doing philosophy as my undergraduate one, because that was what was open at the university I wanted to go to. And so when they said, yeah, there's a free place on this course, do you want to do it? I was like, yeah, I'd love to do philosophy. And I just had no idea what it was when I said that. Luckily, it turns out philosophy is the study of life. And so that was very interesting to me. And as I've gone on, I have chosen many of my pathways by being open to opportunity and looking around to see what is the most interesting choice available to me at that time. And so, yeah, after the philosophy degree, I did a master's degree in computing science because it was fully funded, and that was the best of all the options that I saw in front of me. And also some boys that I'd lived with in my second year of university said, you can't do that, you're not smart enough. And I hate it when people tell me what I cannot do, so I did that. And yeah, that changed the course of my life, but not directly. The first job I had after that was working for a beer company, which, like Andrew gets free chocolate, I got free beer.
Nice.
And it was, yeah, from there that I moved back started my tech career path from there. And all the way through, it has been looking for what seems fun and what seems like the best opportunity in front of me, and saying yes to that, even though, there's always a voice in your head that says, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, you should go there, you should do this. And I say, do not listen to that voice. It is not your friend.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. That's magnificent. Bella, over to you for how did you get where you are now? What's been your journey along the way?
Yeah, so look, I actually did English literature as a degree. So again, completely different background degree. And I did that in New Zealand. So I'm actually Russian born. And so you can imagine I had Russian parents who were saying to me, this is what you should be doing. You should be doing computer science. Actually, funny enough, sort of physics, maths. I was really interested in communications and reading and writing and all those sort of fluffy subjects, or what they thought were fluffy. And so I wanted to go to what the equivalent probably was of a TAFE, but my parents were like, you're going to a university, which is why I did English literature. And so that journey eventually did take me to marketing, and it did take me to communications. And probably like Michelle, I've always networked and taken opportunities and seen where there's really interesting people. So I've had an international career. I've lived in Tokyo and London and in Sydney and Melbourne, and just sort of done things that interest me. But look, at heart, I think I've always been a marketer. And so I filled the gaps by also going back and doing postgrad qualifications. I've done courses on brand architecture and brand management. I've always really loved study, and more so as I've gotten older, and so have always actively sort of gone out and looked for courses. So look, again, and I've got teenage children now and talking to me about what we're going to do. And I say at that age, you just never know what you're going to do. And your career is likely to take all sorts of twists and turns, and you'll end up somewhere wonderful no matter what it is. And you'll take away learnings from whatever experience you have. And look, I guess luckily I've always loved marketing, and it's just sort of ended up in that field.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bella. And last but certainly not least, Jade, what has been your experience? So how did you get to where you are now in your career? And has it been different to what you had in mind?
It's funny, I think I might be the only one that did start off in IT, but now I've kind of come full circle more so into the HR side. So I did a Bachelor of IT at Swinburne. I was really lucky in that the program itself had me going out and doing internships as part of my course requirements. So I was getting that kind of industry experience and whatnot, which really helped me land my grad position. So I moved into the tech grad space at NAB 12 years ago. I don't often say that aloud, so lucky listeners. And yeah, I think in terms of IT, I was always leaning towards that kind of business analysis, project management piece, and I really strived to get there, which I did. And I probably spent about the first 6 to 7 years at NAB doing project management work until one too many implementation weekends. I realized that wasn't really the lifestyle that I was after. And I also realized that I like to be challenged. So I guess I got really lucky with NAB in the fact that I've had 8 different roles in 12 years. So I've moved across and done consulting, portfolio management, leadership, and now I'm obviously running the HR section for our tech and enterprise ops, which is kind of a blend, which is awesome. I guess further to your second question, did I see myself ending up here? Definitely not. But I didn't see myself, I think, staying with a company for so long. Little plug, I guess, for NAB, the fact that I have stayed for so long. But yeah, obviously at the time I look at you would want to always move every 3 to 4 years to a different.
I think Jade just froze for a moment. It's not me that froze. Oh, there she is. She's back again.
No. Oh, no. So sorry.
It's no problem. You're back.
You're back. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, I guess, over 12 years, I've been really lucky to have so many different experiences and didn't think I would stay as long as I have, but I've just been lucky enough to be challenged throughout each of them. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing those stories. It's a really wonderful example of that blend of work and study, and that learning is so valuable when it's connected with real world experiences and helps you shape where you're going and what you're doing. So it was really revealing, not surprising, but revealing to hear from each of you about also that appetite for kind of a just say yes attitude, but looking for something that matches with your professional stretch, but also your personal happiness and where you are in your life along the way as well. So thank you for that. I think some really important insights for our community who will be listening to this either live time or in playback. So up-to-date and relevant skills are essential for all types of work in this day and age, and particularly in our competitive post-COVID economic recovery. Michelle, a question for you. What are some of the transferable skills in your industry? And a term that I don't always resonate with, but what are some of the soft and hard skills, which I like to say some of the human skills and technical skills needed to work in tech and IT?
I'm so with you there. I have stopped using soft skills and hard skills because they are not soft and they are not hard. They are technical and non-technical. That's what I go with. Yeah, so I think there are two things that are really key to being successful in business, to being successful in tech, and that is growth mindset. So, being able to approach everything with an open mind to, if your response is ever, no, we can't do that because we've never done that, or that's not the way we do things around here, or that won't work, or we haven't got enough money, or just if your first default answer is no, to try and stop yourself and say, wait, how could we? What if we did? What if? And, maybe you can't see it yourself, but maybe collaborating with some colleagues, having a little chat with the people around you, you'll be able to open up and think of a different way of approaching things. And that is really, really critical. The other thing is the continuous learning mindset. You can be as skilled as you like leaving university. You can be top of your field with everything that you have learned to that point. And then overnight, they will release 300 new features in cloud, and your knowledge is already out of date if you don't have that mindset of just continuously reading, updating, listening to podcasts, watching videos, reading stuff, and just, a hunger for knowledge that at RMIT, you can get started on that as a habit, learning a little bit every day, learning a little bit more. And if you continue that into your life afterwards, you will be really set up.
Yeah, wonderful reflection. Thank you. And Jade, from your perspective, what are some of the key human skills and why do you think they'll be so important for getting into work in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad. I have to just touch on the fact that we're calling them human skills now, because that's just an overhaul that we've done even in our team. There's completely agree, Michelle. There's nothing hard or soft about them. And I think it's so important to be able to work with humans because that's what we do. So, I think the sorts of skills that we kind of look for are, people who are team players, people who know and have, I guess, the emotional intelligence when they're communicating, and being aware of, what other people's opinions are and thoughts and welcoming them. And similar to what Michelle was saying, having that growth mindset of being open to other ideas and exploring them. Listening skills are really fantastic. I think that's something that gets so underrated, but being able to sit there attentively and listen and engage with what someone is sharing and help them pick it apart is really fantastic. You also move into, obviously, then your problem solving skills, and we do that every day. But it's a really important part when we're hearing that there's things that our customers are wanting. What are the roadblocks? How can we get rid of them? And exactly that. There's no to any sort of outcome that we have. Yeah. It's working with people in order to get to those outcomes. So human skills for me really are, like I said, listening, being able to be a team player, and really those problem solving skills are really key. And all of that's used through your verbal and non-verbal communication.
Fantastic insights. Thanks, Jade. And I really like the the observation about listening is a very active process as well. Sometimes people think listening is sitting quietly, but you intuitively wove in that listening is actually then about being able to be a sounding board, to play back, to pose those critical friend questions, to assist to make things better, which multiple lenses and thoughts do, rather than just one person thinking they have to do things on their own. So yeah. I think that way of work is so crucial for all of us to success. Thank you. Now, RMIT has a very deep history in its industry links, and particularly in our vocational education programs, of which, of course, I'm very proud. Andrew, I'd be interested to understand, how does RMIT and your organisation work together to provide strong educational strong educational outcomes? And you might have an example for us around that, around what that connection has potentially looked like.
Sure, and it's RMIT is a fantastic university, and it really sort of reaches out to industry to understand what their needs and requirements are in trying to develop courses that meet industry needs. And in my example there, I know several of the lecturers in the IT space, and they've asked me to come on board to turn around and review courses, and to review content as to how it's structured and how it's being rolled out. And so I'm providing that feedback, both from a student perspective, and also from an industry or from a manager perspective in how it's being delivered, and also what our industries are needing. And sometimes the link between what lecturers are delivering is not necessarily what industry needs. And I think the really strong approach that RMIT is they're really going out now and saying, right, you as a manager, as a company that needs tech-ready people, what is it that you need now today? Because the business pipe, or the human resource pipeline, is not as long as it used to be. Even 10 years ago, we need industry needs people that are ready almost to hit the ground running. And so the key is really to have people that have those skills. And the fact that RMIT is reaching out now and saying, right, what is it that you need? How can we change courses now to make that appropriate? Means that they're very much listening now and being able to change things as quickly, because IT moves so fast. And we've seen this within COVID, how quickly we've moved to online sessions like this. Universities also need to be able to pivot and change that, not just in delivering the content to their students, but also changing the content of what they're delivering to now meet things. And I think it's very much changed. COVID is proven to all of us that we can very quickly change. And the fact that the university is listening to that and making changes on content, even for the next semester or the next year, is very important. And that's sort of one of the reasons why I've wanted to be very much a part of this whole process, is to turn around and try and influence those outcomes so that we can get the right graduates coming through.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew. And Bella, I'm aware that your organisation, your previous organisation, as well as the one you've just commenced with, has some strong connections with our RMIT students and some live work project examples. Would you mind sharing some of that with the audience today?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my last two previous roles do, and mostly because I've tried to take it with me and because it's been so fantastic. They've been such good experiences. The first time we did an amazing project with an international class of marketing students, and literally I was so impressed with the RMIT facilitator, because she was, the campus was across the road from where I worked. It was a luxury car group, automotive group, and she came through and introduced herself and said, we just want to make a course that's really exciting for students and really practical and get them doing something that's really industry specific. which I loved to begin with, because I think it just shows, when you're studying, you are so conscious of wanting to learn things that are current and practical. And once you leave your study, you can step into a job. So we had a group of students who were each given a luxury car brand, whether Lamborghini or Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Audi. And they had to go away and basically come up with a marketing strategy for each of those brands into a youth market or into an international market. How would you launch this new car into the market? And look, it's fantastic. These sort of partnerships are so great because for the organisation, it's fresh thinking, fresh ideas, students bringing a completely different perspective to what we would come up with. I think that engagement of having students in the organisation, meeting different parts of the organisation, different people, it makes them think differently as well. And I think for the students, it just makes it a really exciting project where you're actually doing something that may be applied into the real world, and you're able to do that when you're still, in your study mode. And so in my next role, which was for the New Zealand government, we did this again, where we picked a New Zealand brand, consumer brand, and we told the students, and actually in partnership with an Irish university that RMIT works with Dundalk, where they also went away and picked apart a consumer brand and sort of said, right, this is how we would launch it in Ireland, and here's what we would focus on if we were launching this brand into Australia. So again, look, I've had amazing experiences working with RMIT, and I don't think too many institutions do that actually, that actually go out there and really look at how to engage students, keep the content fresh and current, and just make classes fun and engaging for everyone who's doing them. So amazing experience, and looking forward to partnering again in my current job.
Thank you so much, Bella. That was wonderful to hear that played back from your perspective and experience. And there's some great questions coming from our audience members as well, which we will pepper through. So there's one that has been posed that I think I'll definitely give to Michelle and then to Andrew around, has anyone ever applied for and been offered a role that you weren't 100% qualified for? So Michelle, maybe if you want to kick off, and then Andrew, you can follow on.
Well, they say it's one of the things that holds women back in their careers, that they will only ever apply for a role where they meet 100% of the criteria, whereas men are often a lot more brave about it and will apply when they make only 20% of the criteria, or in Andrew's case, well, I'll leave that story for him. But my current role, the guy that was doing the role before me, he gave my name to the incoming manager and said, this is my recommendation for the role. And I thought that is a great example of a way that male colleagues can ally and can sponsor female colleagues into roles. But when he left, that new boss had not started yet, was coming in from outside the company. And so the job was not there. So I had to wait. And then this new guy started, and I reached out to him and said, I don't see the job advertised anywhere. And he said, oh, it's been advertised for sure. Let me find it. And it had been advertised, it had been split into two separate jobs. One that was a manager level, which was 2 levels above me, and one that was an individual contributor that was 2 levels beneath me. As an internal hire, I was not qualified to go for either of those two. You can't jump 2 up and you cannot go back. And so, I should not even have applied for either of them. So obviously I applied for both of them. The other thing is, they advertised the roles in Sydney and I live in Perth. And so that also should have put me off. I should have said, I'm not going to work in Sydney, so I'm not going to apply for that role. But I just thought, we'll talk about that later. And yeah, all the criteria as well. Technically, the role is in marketing, which I have no marketing qualifications for. It's with developers, and I would say that I am a average developer would probably be generous. But all of the stuff around community, around helping people into tech, around encouraging people and supporting them and helping them grow in their careers, in meeting emerging developers wherever they are, all of that was just, that was what I wanted to do. And that was what the guy before me saw in me and said, she's the perfect one for this role. So I applied anyway. And it took 6 months for me to talk my way into the role, and 6 months for the manager to convert the role to the right level so that I was able to do it. But I would ping him every week on Teams, just some question or some comment about something I had done, some training event I'd gone to, some women I'd talked to code, something that I had done, so that I was always in his mind and he didn't have a chance to forget about me. And then in the end, he gave me the job.
Well earned, well earned. And Andrew, you've got an experience about applying for and being offered a role you weren't 100% qualified for?
Yeah, sure. And a great example, Michelle, is I really like the tenacity, and I think that's a great characteristic to put yourself forward and really show your enthusiasm and how keen you are, because so much of that in our roles that we do today is around how engaged and how committed you are to some of these roles that really then sticks in your mind. And a little bit similar to Michelle, I was part of the IT team. I was working on projects and was very heavily involved in a project. When out of the blue, my boss, the head of IT, resigned, and they announced it, and then they said that they would now sort of move forward to now recruit it. And I put it to the side because I was so heavily involved in this project and wanted to do well with it. And sort of 2 or 3 weeks later, nothing else was sort of spoken about, and I didn't really have any other experience in managing people, I thought, and didn't have the other experience of managing all these variety of vendors, and but I was good at project management, and I was good at bringing people together on project management tasks. And so I went to then my boss's boss, and I said, how are you going with the recruitment for this new for the head of IT, and just wondering where you were with the process. Trying to sort of ease myself into it without sort of over committing, and if they said no, we've already got someone, then it was okay, that's fine, and being quite nervous about it. And my boss's boss said, why do you ask? And I said, if there is still an opportunity, I'd be interested in applying. And he asked me, why would I be interested? I think it'd be a great opportunity. I think it'd be a great stretch goal. And as Michelle sort of highlighted at the very beginning of her talk there, being male, I probably only had barely 20% of that whole thing, of all that experience. But I showed, this would be a great opportunity. I feel I could really grow. I know so many of the systems that are in Lint, and I would really like to put my application forward. And to cut a long story short, a couple of weeks later, I was told I've got the job. And
Wonderful.
that's sort of really sort of stuck with me, and in that developing of people made me really sort of think much further in developing people. And so I've really tried to push now in my team, because I've got that control, to have a much larger training budget to turn around and get people to further educate themselves to be ready for that opportunity, because you don't know when that opportunity is going to go. No one's going to tell you that you're about to resign and then you've got an opportunity waiting. But if people prepare themselves and do all the right things, then when that opportunity does come, you're as best prepared as you can.
Thanks, Andrew. Jade, I've got a different question for you. So knowing our audience has got quite a number of prospective students in it at the moment. What's the best piece of advice you have for a prospective student about getting ready for the future of work? The banking industry which you work in has been through extraordinary transformation over the last 10 years, as has all our panel members. But yeah, really interested in your lens on the new graduate looking for the future of work and how they can ready themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I always like the slogan, stay curious, and it's probably building on some of what the other panelists have shared, but staying curious about what your passion is and where you see your career heading is so vitally important, because we are looking to you to help shape where our businesses are going. That's why we're recruiting individuals to come and join us, is to hear what exciting, fresh ideas you've got to help us be a better company. And when I say stay curious, there's three kind of ways that I think you can do that. The first is staying curious about your industry. So attending meetups, going to conferences, doing your own exploration outside of just your studies, and continuing that. I think Michelle mentioned before, continuing that learning. That's so vitally important. The second one that I would always say is also focusing on your own personal development. So not just your technical or your skill sets, but on yourself as well. Where are you heading in life? And that can be a blend of both your personal and obviously your career. I think that's a really great way to always make sure you're in alignment with where you're wanting to go. And the last one is focusing and staying curious with the people in industry. So being, socially present on LinkedIn, networking at these sorts of events. If someone resonates with you today, one of the panelists, reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, can I grab you for a 15, 20-minute coffee catch up? I'd really love to pick your brain about how you talked about X, Y, Z. It's really important. And as Michelle, I think, shared before, it was someone that she knew that was able to help her get into a role. And you will find that time and time again, no matter what industry. It can always be about who you know and them feeding or trickling opportunities to you. And I think Andrew shared as well, you just never know where the next opportunity might come. So making sure that you're staying relevant with the people in industry that are building, their companies and their areas is a really great way to do that too.
Fantastic insights. Thank you, Jade. Bella, I'm going to pose to you a question that came from one of our audience members early on, which was they'd love to know, have you ever bounced back after a particularly trying time at work or even in life? And what might be some of the lessons out of that you would play back to potential students or people looking for insights about getting ready for work?
Goodness, bounce back. Well, I think there's been a lot of bouncing back from all sorts of things in the last couple of years. But look, I think you just have to, maybe it's about having focus on multiple opportunities and skills for yourself as well, that you're not having this sort of singular vision of, I want to be this and that's all there is that's out there. I think by opening yourself up to lots of different opportunities and sort of being aware of different areas of interest and skills that you might have, you're not going to be disappointed by missing out on any one thing. And I think with all of us, what I've heard from all the panelists is our careers have sort of almost come by introductions and opportunities. So what we thought we were once going to be may not have eventuated. And so I think that some of those some of the things that you bounce back from that you think are a disaster in the moment, you actually look back on and realize there were some really key things that you learnt at those times. So look, and I think that each time, marketing for starters is usually the first industry to get the chop. So as soon as there's a crisis or anything is happening in the world, marketing department gets cut. So I would have lost my job a number of times out of redundancies in those early days when, you're a young marketer, someone's cutting a budget, and so, sorry, the marketing department has to go and there's no more marketing budget. So I think you can let those things sort of get you down, or I look back on every single one of them and then I look at the next opportunity that came up and think, wow, if it hadn't have been for that, I actually wouldn't have got the opportunity that I'm in today. So I think it's just we just have to be so flexible now. You're definitely you might change your entire career and industry, in the lifetime of your career more than once, maybe twice. I think we just all have to be really open to evolving and learning new things, and kind of, it's not so bad sometimes to take something unexpected or take an opportunity that you're not 100% sure on, because I think it opens doors to something really wonderful.
Fantastic insights. Thanks, Bella. Also, so I'm going to come to you with this one, Michelle, is a question from the audience around, did you ever have a mentor at some point in your career?
That's a good one. Yeah, because I think that a mentor is too much pressure on you and the mentor. You're kind of going to them in a very fairy tale way, with a sort of, teach me, tell me everything. And they're like, what? And it's too much. And so I think if a company has a board of directors, a person should have a board of mentors, and there are different people that they go to for different things. So, there are some things that you would ask your mum or your dad for, and they would be the only person you could think of turning to for that advice. Maybe you've got a best friend, and, they're the person you go to for that kind of advice. So I've got a lot of mentors that I go to for different things, and I talk to at different times, and they provide me with inspiration and guidance and advice. But it's a two-way conversation. So we are inspiring each other and giving each other information that is useful. I picked up another one this morning. So I was in a call with a guy from the UK, and we had half an hour booked for the call, and we went well over. And I just thought, this is so great. I'm so inspired by everything he said. He's given me so many ideas. There's so much more I could discuss with him. So at the end of the call, I said, would you mind changing this call to a regular monthly meeting instead of just a one-off? Because I would really like to continue touching base with you. And I do it with another guy in the US who was in a failed interview loop. So, I interviewed for another job previously. I did not get that job, but I really connected with one of the interviewers. And at the end, I went back to him and said, could we have a monthly meeting? Would you be a mentor to me? Because there's so much I could learn from you. So, yeah, like what Bella was saying with the bounce back thing, turn the thing that was a failure or a missed opportunity into some sort of other opportunity. So I didn't get that job, but I picked up a really good mentor out of it. And yeah, that's what if you surround yourself with inspiration and with people that give you ideas and challenge you, and you feel like you're giving stuff back to them, then yeah, maybe you're mentoring each other.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle, for those insights. Jade, I'm going to come to you with the audience question that I know you've got some reflections on. So the audience member said, at times when I try to assert myself, I feel like I'm not being listened to. What tips could you give me for strengthening my leadership skills?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And can I just say kudos to you for also being vulnerable enough to be able to ask a question like that. I think it takes a lot of guts sometimes to be able to say, you know what, this is what I'm not really great with. How do I, improve? So good on you. The first thing that I would probably do, I really believe in 360 feedback loops. It's a time where you can actually go to your peers and those that you work with and get some feedback. How do you interact when you're doing team projects? What are, their experiences when you're sharing ideas? You might find that maybe it might be that first they might not have heard you. It could have been something that perhaps you put forward an idea, but it wasn't built up enough that it was an actual, piece of information they could take and add to the project. There could be a range of things, but it's a really great way to get feedback from people who work with you and really have some self-reflection after that and maybe take some takeaways from that. The next one is it really is about building confidence. And I think that's a lifetime thing. It really is something that we all are constantly working at. We all have, I guess, insecurities. We always have doubts about what we're putting forward. Even doing this panel, it can sometimes feel a bit intimidating. But you've just got to back yourself and trust that your experience and what you bring to the table is valuable, and knowing that we are all valuable in terms of what we bring. The next thing I would probably say is maybe just practice on asserting yourself. So for instance, if you've shared something and it hasn't been acknowledged, maybe just bring it up and say, look, guys, I've tried to share this point, can you give me some feedback on it? Do you think it would be something we could implement? And see what they say. Again, that's an in the moment feedback that you can get as well. So I always think check in with the people and how they're receiving it, and then take that information and see how you can build upon that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jade. Bella, a question for you, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, is how do you tackle goal setting? Is it something consciously that you do, or subconsciously as you move through your career and learning experiences?
I think probably more consciously now, just because as I'm sort of starting to see my career in chunks of time, and I'm going, okay, well, I'm in 40-something now. So what does the next 10 years of my career look like? What do I want it to look like? And I mean, look, there's a scary thought of retirement. Eventually I have to retire, or maybe it gets harder to find a job as you get older. And so what do I want to develop myself into as I get older? So look, I think I have started to set much more tangible goals and sort of go, this is the sort of things I love. This is where my skills are. Here's the gaps that I have. I mean, I recently did a director's course just because I thought, you know what, I'd like to have a career, an advisory career, as I sort of reach a more senior part of my professional life. And so I think it's definitely becomes more conscious, but in the early days, I think they were sort of intuitive goals that I had.
Wonderful, thank you. And there's a question I might, Andrew, if you're comfortable, I might throw it to you to wrap up with as one of our last ones. It was a question from the audience around, I was once asked in a job interview, what would people say if you were not in the room? So how would your team perhaps, or your colleagues, reflect back on you if you were not in the room?
It's a great question, and I think it's very good to ask that question before you walk into the room.
Yes. Right?
Because if you walk into the room with trying to bring everyone along on that journey and support and develop and mentor people for a win-win situation, I think then people are going to respect that you're trying to not burn anyone and not a bit tongue-tied on this one,
That's all right.
and not think ill. Whereas if you're out there for a win-lose, people are going to get upset with that, or try and talk over the top of people. You want to sort of respect everyone right from the beginning, value their input, and then also to speak honestly. That old technique of sandwiching, the good and the bad when you're giving feedback. So some good, the bad news, and some more good. People can see that you're then trying to then be a team player, that you're trying to turn around and bring everyone along. And with that, people are going to respect you to say that you're you're honest, you're trustworthy, you want the right outcome for everyone. And in doing that, people are going to respect you when you're out of the room. And it's sometimes hard to know what people think. And again, like Jade said, when that 360 feedback, when you get an opportunity to do it, embrace it, and with the best intentions, people are trying to give you the good feedback on areas that you can improve. And as your career changes, from being a graduate person to then being a manager or a leader that you're reporting people, your skills need to constantly change. But treating people the right way never changes throughout your career. And if you always sort of have that with the best intention in mind, I think then you're going to be on a winner, that people are always going to say good things about you, even when you're out of the room, and also come to you, for advice. And that's another great thing. If people wanting to come to you for your advice on how to solve something is also another positive.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to our panelists. I've certainly heard some themes around human-centered and human behaviours and human skills, and people needing to really work on those with a sense of curiosity and openness and bringing your authentic self to what you do. I also heard played back from all of you through both your reflections on your own careers and on the industry and where we're headed was that appetite to take a chance and to look for when doors open or opportunities are presented to each of you. You talked about that element of braveness to say, yeah, I'll give it a go. And I think that's a really interesting component of people who are looking for their first or next career, to always keep in mind building in that resilience factor, that not everything will happen in a really straight line, but often in a really divergent way. And I guess before I close off, and thank you so much for your time tonight, I thought I'd just do a quick rip around if there was a word or a phrase or any last piece of advice that you wanted to give to our audience members before we close this session off. So I might start with you, Bella, and then I'll go to you, Michelle, then Andrew, and then Jade.
Yeah, look, I think don't underestimate the skills that you're going to bring to any organisation or anywhere that you go, because you can often undervalue or be fearful that what you know is not enough. And I think you just, you bring through when you start talking to people and when you start applying for jobs or you start reaching out to people on LinkedIn, I think something comes across about you that might just be exactly what an organisation is looking for or someone is looking for. So I think just go for it. Just don't shy away from things and go for it.
Thank you, Bella. Michelle?
Yeah, I agree. Set your default to yes instead of no. But in fact, the lens you should put over that is make sure that the things you say yes to are high impact activities. Don't be taking other people's drudge work. On the confidence thing, we were all scared initially, and the way we overcame it was constantly putting our hands up for stuff, constantly standing on the stage or saying yes to panels or doing things again and again until you're no longer sweating and scared. And the third thing is if you're afraid to speak up for yourself, then speak up for your friend. Raise someone else around you up. The woman sitting on the side of you, say, she's really good at this. One of the first things I did when I was in America, I wanted to speak to a really important Microsoft guy and I was too shy to do it. And so I grabbed this young intern and brought him over and introduced him to the guy that I wanted to speak to. And then by the time they'd gotten through all of their jabber, I had a bit more confidence to introduce myself as well.
Great tactic. Andrew, and great advice. Thank you, Michelle.
I think take the opportunities when they come, because there is only a very small window of being able to take that opportunity and go beyond your boundaries. It's only your own mind that's limiting you, and you'd be amazed at what skills you've got which you don't think about. I mean, one thing that terrified me was managing people, and it's not managing the successful people, it's managing the difficult people in the difficult situations, and it's that preparation and that preparing yourself that helps you in being able to do that. And there was another question there that came up before about confidence in public speaking. I did a Toastmasters course to get some confidence, because I was awfully nervous. And what I found, one of the key things that they did was prepare if you've got a difficult presentation to do, prepare if you've got a difficult discussion, do it, and have all of your points. And if you do that, you get that confidence. and that would be my piece of advice. And do something new, do something that you've never done before, because it's only that internal fear that's stopping you.
Thanks, Andrew. And Jade, lucky last to wrap us up.
Oh, I was going to say there's just so much I wanted to jot down there. Look, I always believe in the power of just openness and being open to making mistakes. None of us are perfect. And I think, confidence, especially at the entry level of your career, can be really hard sometimes to have. But you know what? We don't expect you to be a superstar because you know what? We're most likely every day not that either. All of us make mistakes, but it's the ability to keep getting back up and trying again. So be open to your learning journey, be open to being kind to yourself when it doesn't always go the way that you expect it to, but keep taking in those opportunities, I think, each time and see where they take you.
So thank you so much to our 4 fantastic panellists. That's a wrap for today. If you do have more questions, could you please send them through to our live chat link, and which is the small red tab at the right-hand side of the screen when you're in our Open Day website. I'd like to thank you all in the audience for joining us for RMIT Talks. I'd particularly like to thank Jade, Andrew, Michelle and Bella for such rich sharing of your experiences and your insights. And I hope to see all of you in the audience in our RMIT community soon. And let's keep our fingers crossed that can be back on campus soon as well. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.
Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye all.
All right.